Good evening. Welcome to this special broadcast on this Saturday, the 11th of April, 2020, in this month COVID-19. I'm privileged to have two guests as part of this active citizenship series.
Yes.
Today, we are looking at the rule of law versus the rule of man. And to join me is Mr. Lennon Ruizi. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayere. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and Mr. Albert Matape. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much for inviting me on this platform.
Okay, we can start with Mr. Ruizi. Do you know Mr. Albert Matape?
Yes, I've heard him speak on different platforms quite some time, but I've not spoken to him personally. It's my first time today.
And Mr. Matape, do you know Mr. Lennon Ruizi?
No, it's my first time. Of course, I know the name, but I haven't spoken to him as well. I've just seen his name, I think, on the social media.
This is related to a question of imagining a future that I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Matape,
yes, sir.
Just close your eyes and think about Zimbabwe that you don't know but you want to visit. Are you satisfied that country exists?
Well, yes, I'm satisfied the country exists because the country is there, yes.
The imagined Zimbabwe, does it exist?
Yes, Zimbabwe exists.
Okay, Mr. Ruizi, do you understand my question?
Yes, I do understand your question.
Okay, what is your response?
Yes, the country Zimbabwe exists. And in my imagination, I can imagine what our country can be, the ideal Zimbabwe that we want.
And what kind of Zimbabwe do you want? And does that Zimbabwe exist? Mr. Matape.
The Zimbabwe as a country exists, true.
Okay.
But the Zimbabwe that I want does not exist. It does not exist. Unless you want me to expand on that.
Okay, you are saying it doesn't exist, and Mr. Ruizi, did it exist to you?
No, definitely not. The Zimbabwe that I want is not what we have experienced.
Okay. So if you were to bridge the Zimbabwe that is and the Zimbabwe that you want, what would be the key considerations or maybe leading you on? Do you think the rule of law is one of the variables that will bridge the Zimbabwe that is and the Zimbabwe that you want?
Yes, I think definitely the rule of law is key to our founding principles. And I do not think the rule of law has been implemented in our country. That is the missing ingredient in Zimbabwe.
And do you agree, Mr. Matape?
Yes, I totally agree that the Zimbabwe that we want, or that I want as Matape, is a Zimbabwe that has rule of law, or that respects rule of law, that respects all the people and value them And that's the Zimbabwe that we want. That everybody is the same. Everybody is treated exactly in the same way like another. But the Zimbabwe that we have now is completely and totally different.
So let's look at the rule of law. What is your understanding of what this entails, Mr. Rwezi?
No, the rule of law simply implies that the law that we agreed to in 2013, the statutory instruments that we agreed to at any point must be implemented at any time and every time. That should be our guiding principle. The law nobody should be above the law. Nobody should act above the law. The law should be our standard of life when we do business, when we relate to each other, when we relate to companies, when we relate to political organization. The law should be our guiding principle, and it should be respected. The law must rule. That's basically what I understand.
Okay, is that the same understanding?
Yes, it is the same understanding that obviously we have to adhere to the constitution that exists. Firstly, let's assuming that the constitution that we have is what we agreed on. Let's not dwell on that one. But now every institution of government must adhere to the rule or to the rules as prescribed in the constitution, and as well as the laws of the country. They have to be exactly in line with the constitution, and that should not have should not apply to other people and not to others. Everybody is subjected to exactly the same thing, and that then becomes the rule of law.
And looking at the current actors in government, Mr. Rwezi, are you confident that they will take you where you think Zimbabwe should be?
I'm not 100% confident with the leadership that we have for a few reasons. And this is not me being political, but trying to be objective to say, I'm a young person. My mother and my father are in the village. I have personal aspirations that I want to achieve before my time is done. But the conditions in Zimbabwe are not allowing me to fulfill my personal ambition, my destiny. So I do not think the leadership model and the leadership personalities that we have in Zimbabwe at the moment are the right people who should be leading us. I do not know, and I don't want to be sounding political at the moment, but I'm not confident with the leadership that we have in Zimbabwe at the moment.
Okay, and Mr. Matape, imagine the President of the Republic is His Excellency President Mnangagwa. Are you confident that he does have the temperament, the mind, the balance, the maturity to take you where you want to get to?
Right. I want to start by saying every Zimbabwean has to be the same. Every Zimbabwean should be capable of taking Zimbabwe forward. It is really surprising that the crop of leadership that we have, unfortunately, they are not, because they demonstrate this on a daily basis, that they don't follow the law or the laws of the country. They don't respect or value the people within the country. They don't have a vision or they don't even know exactly what they want, because we need, for example, we need employment. We need things like employment. We need to create our economy and have an economy that takes care of its people. And for that to happen, there must be the rightful environment. And that environment is created by the leaders. They make sure they put in place a conducive environment for the economy to thrive. But the crop of leadership that we have now does not think along those lines. They only look at themselves. As long as they've got their, nice vehicles, they've got their whatever they want and they get it. They're not worried about, all other things. So this is where we are. I cannot be confident with such kind of leadership. They cannot give me any confidence at all. Thank you.
On a scale of 1 to 10, Mr. Rwisi, do you have confidence that Zimbabwe, under the current leadership of President Mnangagwa, can take you where you think Zimbabwe ought to be?
On a scale of 0 to 10?
Yeah.
I would give them a 3 or a 4 at best. Why do I give them a 4 at best? There are a lot of factors that are at play when you analyze a political situation. We are very much aware that there is deliberate sabotage from the opposition, and they've implemented that using the internet as a strategy, number one. Number two, Mnangagwa inherited a dead horse. And we must be honest about that, he inherited a dead horse, a country that was almost on its knees. So there are quite a lot of factors that we must put into consideration when we analyze his progress and some sort of achievement. I would say a 4 because the comrade has failed to implement the basics of democracies: free speech, free association. He has failed to give us at least the basics of democracy. The economy is on its knees. The young people do not have jobs. The economy doesn't seem to be working in any way. There's policy inconsistency. He doesn't show the maturity of a statesman. He doesn't seem to be sensitive to the plight of the ordinary man in the village. He seems to be brutal, as some people would have predicted already. So I would say overall, I would give him a 3 out of 10. He's trying in other areas. He's trying to do his best under the conditions, but there is gross mismanagement. Corruption still reigns in our country. There's quite a lot that you would say he can do better. So I would give him a 3 or a 4 if he achieves. That is the ceiling that I would give him.
Okay. Let's now look at the citizens themselves. We, the citizens. Do you think the citizens of Zimbabwe know what time it is in terms of the rule generally?
I would say, okay, is it directed to me or Mr. Matape?
You can start, yeah?
Okay. No, I think what Mugabe managed to do in his almost 37 or 4 years in power was to cure political literacy. There are certain subjects at university that raise your capacity to think politically and in the public interest. For example, if you study law, if you study public law, if you study constitutional law, you understand issues. Mugabe managed to limit the number of young people who can be admitted to the law school in Zimbabwe, at the University of Zimbabwe. Mugabe destroyed our capacity to think for ourselves. So you will see that in the 90s and the early 2000s, the most vocal young people in Zimbabwe were law students. Your Tendai BTs, your Lenmo Jongwe, your job scholars. There were only a few students who were not law. Were not studying law, who became active in politics. So I'm trying to point to the root cause to say, I blame Mugabe for restricting certain academic degrees. Only about 50 students were allowed to study law in Zimbabwe. So you create a monopoly where a certain number of students become special when they study law. Because when you study law, your mind becomes open to unconstitutional practices. Your mind becomes open and critical to certain things. So I'm trying to say, Mr. Mawere, Mugabe managed to destroy political literacy amongst our people. Mugabe managed to destroy our ability to interpret political events by restricting certain academic studies to only a few people. I come from a village in Wedza where around Heroes those Heroes holidays, they sensitize the elderly people in Wedza where helicopters and soldiers are deployed in the village. And my grandmother we experienced the atrocities of the war in the 70s and the 80s and the 60s. She becomes very much conscious of our political history. So I'm trying to say we have a citizenship that has been crippled and disabled in terms of how they look at politics. Some people are not even interested in politics. They think politics is evil. That is what Mugabe did. It was systematic. It was a brain drain that was drilled in our people so as to destroy our people's ability to be critical to the events of our time. So I do not want to blame the people of Zimbabwe for the plight that they find themselves. It would be unfair. I think it's unfortunate that this is the legacy, or this is part of the few things that Mugabe left for our young people, and it's unfortunate.
Okay, and Matape, do you concur?
Yes. Allow me just to go back and comment on the issue of the earlier issue where you said on a scale of 1 to 10. Did you say 1 to 10? Was it 1 to 10 or 1 to 10? I would put Mnangagwa at 1, the least. Yeah? If the scale was 0 to 10, I would put him at 0. I would not give him a 2 or a 3, but just a 1, simply because I will go back to what was once said by Albert Einstein. He said, we share the same name with Albert Einstein. He said, the problems that we face today cannot be solved by the same level of thinking of those who created the problems. Mnangagwa was and has been and is still the chief architect of the problems that we have today. I do not want to agree with Lennon on blaming Mugabe per se. I want to blame the system. And the system includes Mugabe, Mnangagwa, Chiwenga, and all this team. It includes all these guys. It's a system. That is the biggest mistake that the people of Zimbabwe have been making. They've been saying, we just want to remove Mugabe. So they removed Mugabe. What happened? Was there any change? Nothing. Because they removed one person instead of removing a system. So it is a system of ZANU-PF that is causing all the problems that we have. That's about that. Now, I move on to this question, which you have asked now, about citizen participation and whether they They understand what they want and what have you. I want to blame the citizens now. Yes, the ZANU is to blame 100% for whatever they do. But I also want to shed a portion of blame to the citizens. The citizens should know what they want. We should know what we want. I mean, look, things happen, in your eyes. You see the things happening, and you choose not to see or take the right thing and say, here you are, John has been deprived. We see policemen beating up people, and we are busy taking videos, we are busy laughing. We don't even come in and ask the police, why are you beating this person? Why? What is it? I tell you just one example. In China, Africans are being discriminated in China. They are being accused of bringing corona and what have you, and Africans have been pushed out of their residence as we speak right now. But what has Nigeria done? The ambassador of Nigeria in China has gone there physically and has been talking to these people and asking them, why are you doing this? He has been very active. Not only that, but the president of Nigeria summoned the ambassador in Nigeria, and they started protesting, asking them, why are you doing this to our people? That's what we want. That's what I call leadership. So I'm saying there is this doctrine, which is called the doctrine of lesser magistrate. If I see you, Mr. Mawere, trying to harm someone because you are a minister or you are a policeman, I have got the right under the doctrine of lesser magistrate to come in and rescue that person. I become a small magistrate from you. You are a bigger magistrate, but because the decisions that you are making for that particular person are not the right decisions, I have got right then to take over and rescue that person. So Zimbabweans, we must do that. We must rescue one another. We must be able to value ourselves and see what is right and what is wrong. The problem that Zimbabweans have is that they just follow individuals. Politics of populism, politics of hero worshipping, politics of individuals, individualism. That is the biggest problem that we have. That's exactly what we were doing to Mugabe in 1980. We were praising him and praising him and praising him. Some people were even saying Nkomo must be killed because we did not want to.
Mr. Matape, what they are saying is, shouldn't we transition from Mugabe to the present, and from the present future that dreaming of? Is it
in my view, there is no change. We are not transit. We are not. There is no transition from anywhere because the system is still intact as it was. It is the system. It's not about Mugabe. It's not about Mnangagwa. It is the system which is made up, of course, of these guys. So Mugabe simply left a system which is continuing. It's even worse.
No, but Mr. Matape, I think the system does not exist on its own for itself. This system has been put in place by individuals that we know. This system has been put for a certain reason, and this system is working in favor of a few people that we know. So I do not want to absolve Robert Mugabe for the atrocities that he committed. So let us try as much as possible to be critical and call a spade a spade. I personally would not just call it a system for itself. This is a system that Robert Mugabe implemented. And you mentioned something about Mugabe-Nkomo relationship. For political reasons, Mugabe made a lot of people think that there was something wrong with Joshua Nkomo. And we know that for a fact. It's not the system. it was for a personal interest, number one. Number two, we know the person who is in charge right now. Because the system that Mugabe put in place for the past 35 or so years, the same system still favors Emerson Mnangagwa. The same system still favors the people who are in charge of our administration. So I'm trying to say, let us call a spade, and let us find individuals who are responsible for the plight of so many people. Otherwise, we might sugarcoat the discussion by calling the wrongs that are happening in Zimbabwe the system. I hope you get what I'm trying to say.
No. The system, when we talk of a system, we are saying when individuals do what they are doing and they are not questioned, they are let go, nobody touches them, it becomes a system. So we don't, because you see, we removed Mugabe, but left the system. That's why we are still suffering. We can still remove Mnangagwa today and leave the system there. We will still continue to suffer. When we talk of removing a system, we are removing all those individuals who are making up that system. So by blaming a system, we are not saying Mugabe was right. We are blaming him because he is part of the system. He makes the system. The system is made up of the individuals that have a way of doing certain things. So that's why we are saying we blame the whole system. That's the point.
Oh yes. Okay. No, I get it then. But for me, what constitutes a system? Oh, sorry, Mr. Mawere.
Okay, go ahead.
No. So I was saying, Mr. Matape, what constitutes a system for you? Because we know in Zimbabwe, there is a security system that intimidates.
Yes. Look, when we talk of a system like in Zimbabwe, we are talking of the whole functional system of government. So we are saying if you commit a crime, they look at you and say, oh, it's Lennon. No, Lennon, remember, he's related to John. So let's leave him. The law does not touch you because you are related to someone. And if it is me, they say, oh, this one, yes, is our enemy. They deal with me. I'm saying that becomes a system which is implemented by individuals. So you don't, if we just blame individuals, for example, just blaming Mnangagwa alone, it means people will say, okay, let's remove Mnangagwa. You remove Mnangagwa today, but the system remains there. You will not have done anything. So by removing a system, you are saying all the people that make up the system and the way they are doing things must be removed.
No. So, Mr. Matape, I'll give you an example. Yesterday in Norton, there was a young girl, a young woman, a young adult in Norton. She's one of our very prominent lawyers. She was coming from buying vegetables across the street. You know how it is in Zimbabwe. And then 3 armed soldiers then approached this young woman and says, can you turn off your phone, number one? Number two, can you jump into this truck? You it's just across the street, less than 50 meters. You are contravening the lockdown order. And this somebody was just standing at your own gate, coming from buying vegetables. She's denied a right to speak. In the police, at the police station, she's denied of the right to speak to any policeman or any investigating officer. They are told then to, because the cells at the Norton police station in full capacity, she's then told to sit overnight. Imagine the trauma of having 3 men. This is a young woman around 23, 24. She sleeps overnight because she doesn't have money to pay in cash, because there's a cash crisis in Zimbabwe. There's no swipe, there's no whatever. She has no access to a phone call to call people back home. What I'm trying to say is that when I see or when I speak of a system, I look at all the laws that are in place. I look at the attitude of our security services, from your CIO, from your soldiers, your policemen, anybody who is in security services. I look at the attitude and how you administrate the country. I look at whether or not you adhere to the principles of constitutionalism. Do we have a strict adherence to constitutionalism? I look at the judiciary, and then I ask myself, if I approach this tribunal or court of law, do I expect to get justice from that court? I look at it from an investment point of view, where I say, if I put my money, $10, expecting to get $2 profit, am I guaranteed that the laws that are in this country are going to remain the same? Is there consistency in terms of policy? 2019, we had a statutory instrument called SI 44 of 2019. But just a few weeks ago, because of this COVID-19 situation, they've changed the law in respect to foreign currency and the currency system. So for me, that constitutes part of what I call a system of oppression, when your security services are in the habit of using force against the same people, when your policy is inconsistent, when you do not adhere to the rule of law, when you are very harsh with your own people who you want you to vote you. So I cannot exhaust what I think is a system, but these are some of the things that I think constitute what we should be calling a system of oppression in Zimbabwe.
Okay, and if you look at solutions, what people are saying, can you proffer any solution to the Zimbabwean challenge? What would your response be?
Should I come in?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Just a few words about the system again. Sorry for that. Lennon, what you were saying, they are just elements of the system. And
yes,
if you look at the people who let those things continue to happen without anybody questioning, without anybody taking, stopping such kind of things, those people are the Mnangagwas, the Chiwengas, and so on. So we are saying a system is that which is put by people, which is either positive or it's negative. But it's done by individuals. And it's a team, it's not one person. There are a whole lot of them. So we won't get into much details about that. Right. Let's look at solutions. For us to be able to come up with viable solutions, we need people to be objective. As long as Zimbabweans are not objective in the way they look at things, in the way they think, it is difficult to come up with any plausible solutions. We must open up our eyes and brains and say, okay, here is a puzzle. We see a puzzle. How do we solve this puzzle? Without that analysis, where we are able to analyze and face reality, call a spade, where we have failed, we say we have failed here. We must do this, we must do that together as one. That is the only way that can lead us to Canaan. Otherwise, we are in deep shit. The problem is when you want to be objective, people will politicize that objectivity. And then because you have not said what they want to hear, they say you are rubbish or you are supporting the wrong thing. Simply because you are saying, look, guys, here it is. We are falling into a pit. We must not fall into a pit. We must avoid this pit. Let us put a bridge so that we can then cross. But as long as we tell one another lies and we are happy with lies, then we won't get anywhere. There are loads of solutions, but those solutions will not work as long as Zimbabweans are not united. And we are failing to unite simply because someone says, I belong to Maweres, whatever, I'm Mof. Someone says, I'm Dewa. Someone says, I am whatever. I'm talking of totems. Someone says, no, I'm Shona. Another one says, I'm Debele. Another one says, no, I am Zanu. Another one says, I'm MDC. Another one says, no, I'm Donga. Another one says, I'm Mutwakazi. A lot of, names and, divisions and so on. Instead of us Zimbabweans say, okay, enough is enough. Let us unite and think and come up with one solution that can save us. We will not get anywhere. Because the bottom line here, it's not about, I've read on social media and other media where some people were saying, let us focus on development. Otherwise, we will be doomed. Let's develop. Let us talk about development. You will not develop as long as in front, instead of putting a horse leading you, you put maybe a lion that wants to fight you. You will not develop. So as long as we don't know our priorities, let us know what exactly we want. Put our priorities there. Put aside all other things. I don't know what to say and how to say this because it's so difficult. The moment you say the truth and say, look, guys, we are heading nowhere, people will start labeling you. That's the problem of Zimbabweans. And then if you say I blame, if you say I blame citizens for failing to know what they want, they will say no, because they are facing a brutal regime. Yes, we are facing a brutal regime, but we must come up with a solution.
Mr. Matape,
yes.
Can I ask you something? Is there anything good that you have observed from that you can acknowledge since 2018 when Emmerson Mnangagwa took over power? Is there anything good that you can say they are doing quite well?
Nothing. Zero. They are doing even worse. Nothing. Zero. There is nothing completely. You can tell me, then I can analyze it for you. There is nothing. Emmerson Mnangagwa is just a zero. He is, we would rather put Chino Timba as president, not Mnangagwa. It's just as useless.
Okay. I think people are saying you're talking the truth, but do you agree that active citizenship can accelerate people towards the kind of Zimbabwe they want?
And yes, I agree with you. I totally agree with you, Mr. Mawere, that active citizen. I also want to agree with Lennon where he said, knowledge. If people know their rights, people know what they're expected to know, surely we can get somewhere. So active citizen is one element which is very, very important. We all have to be active. The problem with Africa is that most the leaders, they preach that politics, one, is a dirty game. Two, it's for elites. It's for everybody, because whatever you do every day is politics. Even if you go to church, for a church to be allowed in your country, it's because politics have allowed it. So the penalty of not being involved in politics is that you'll be ruled by idiots. You are ruled by those who know nothing, because you don't want to participate, so that you choose the right people. So I don't have anything that I cherish the current regime. Nothing. Zero. Thank you.
And then Lennon?
I would respectfully disagree with Mr. Matape for the following reasons. I think we run a risk of dismissing everything that Emmerson Mnangagwa is doing. I think in terms of policy, he has been clear that the land question is unnegotiable. We cannot go back, and we should not go back when it comes to the land question. It's a tick for me. Good leadership, good ideological orientation, number one. I think we must be objective enough to say these are his weaknesses, these are the things that he's doing well. For us then to give him a 0 on the basis that there is a lot of things that is messing up.
Allow me to ask something. Yes, I just want to ask you, may you please tell us all what you say there are his positives. Can you tell us? You've talked of land. I'm going to address it. Can you tell us everything? We are listening.
No, so, do you agree that he's ideologically correct when he speaks of the land question, that it's
unnegotiable? We can have an extensive conversation on the issue of land.
Yes.
And what is land, what it is not. Is land an object given common to all, or is land property?
I think it's both.
Okay.
Also, it's I'll speak from an ontological point of view, that in this foreign land where I find myself, I'm not going to be buried here. One day when I die, I shall be taken to a graveyard somewhere in Wedza, where I must be buried with my great-great-grandfathers, my fathers, my uncles, and my people with the same surname and totem with me. I must be buried with them in Wedza, in the same graveyard. And we bury our people within the land. We dig and we put them down.
If we look
so
at land,
no, I'm saying land is an emotional importance for us as Africans and as Black people. It's something that white people denied us.
Let's look at a donkey that uses land.
Yes.
Should a donkey claim land as property?
The question I would ask is, do every human being with a Zimbabwe deserve land?
I've asked the question, and you are now asking another question. So,
no. Anyway, Mr. Mawere, I should not divert the conversation. I was trying to respond to Mr. Matape that.
No, I'm saying a donkey, a lion, a mango tree, they all land. That land is a gift of nature. None of these creatures with life claim land as theirs, but for theirs to use. Do you agree that without the law, land is an object?
Without the law, land is an object.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to just explain something to Lennon that he doesn't know.
Yes.
Lennon, understand this, my young man. Look, we waged a war of liberation. The primary reason for going to war was for us to get land, because we said land is our birthright, as you have said. But
Yes.
we never got that land after liberation. You understand? Up to date, we never got that land. Yes, they purported to have distributed land in 2000. But what did they do? They simply took land from the white commercial farmers. They put it in their pockets as if it's their money. Today, those people who are on land, who are purported to have been given land, they are there at the mess of ZANU PF. If they don't vote ZANU, they will be chucked away from that land. Is that what we want? Land does not belong to an individual, does not belong to ZANU, does not belong to government. It is an object, as what Mr. Mawere has said. It is naturally ours. We are not given by anyone. We should not.
Mr. Matape, I'm raising a point that I had not finished developing. I think Lennon is still wondering why I was asking about land as an object, land
Yes.
as. And if you look at an object, the object itself, like in the animal kingdom, there is nothing property. Do we agree?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
But land exists in the animal kingdom. Without land, there are no animals.
Yes.
But none of them claim title on land. It's only in the context of human organization that land acquires this title feature, because human beings can alter, can convert a gift of nature into something else that they can use to live. I can convert gold, diamonds into some other form that I can use. And when it becomes a ring, it's no longer an object because I've added human labor in it. But it's still gold. But I change the form of the gold. If it's iron ore, if it's manganese, if it's chrome, I convert into something of value, which other animals cannot do. Whatever is remains what it is, except what they need to live. So when you look at people who say land is ours, it means they are playing a role that is not meant for men. We put an administrative system, which we call government, not for the government to own the land, no, but to make sure that there is balance, there is equity. But tell me which administrative system can produce efficient outcomes, that the people who need land will get it, and the people who don't need it may not get it, or any system known to mankind will always have the lenses of men. If I don't like you, I eject you. Just happened the terrorism that is happening on WhatsApp groups, Lennon. Somebody gets admin rights. No sooner do they use the admin right to remove those people they don't like. So if you are president today and you have the task of giving property, value to people, I'm sure, Lennon, you agree with me that the title will end up with people you like.
No,
And people
Mr. Mawere, I think my political orientation, I'm a socialist. I believe everybody must be given an equal opportunity. And everyone must be given a chance to prove themselves. And it's only when they failed to prove themselves that we can then make a decision. Imagine if you deny me the opportunity to go to school because I come from a village. I'm just a person who was given an opportunity to try, and I happened to do well at school at some point. So I would want to say also, my uneducated grandmother in the village deserves a chance to do well if she's given the land. That is what Mugabe was trying to do. Let us give all Zimbabweans a chance to do well at school, to do well with farming, to do well at polytechnic colleges, at vocational training schools, at universities. Let us give an opportunity to everyone to try to live their destiny. So I also understand what you're trying to say, that it's a complicated matter for them to speak of these technicalities. As long as you live within the boundaries of a country that we call Zimbabwe, as long as you are within that circumference that we call Zimbabwe, you are entitled to land. I think you should be entitled to land. That is what socialism means. Give everybody an equal opportunity to do something. I do not agree with what you are saying, because you then start creating classes. People from the village should not go to upper top schools. They should be given proper education, free education, free and fair education, I mean. Regardless of your background, people should be given an opportunity. So anyway, without diverting the topic, I wanted to point out at what Mr. Matape was saying, to say, I think there's something that Emmerson Mnangagwa is doing right. I think there are things that Emmerson Mnangagwa is missing. And we should find a balance. Should find a balance of being objective. And I was pointing out policy consistency when it comes to the land. We should not go back when it comes to the land. I do not know what you think about that, Mr. Matape.
No. He is not consistent at all. Remember, there is a lot that is going on behind the scenes. He's not even consistent, and there is no transparency in the way. We are not saying everybody must get land, but everyone who wants to use land must use it. There is nothing that I can credit Mnangagwa for doing, even, I mean, there is absolutely zero. The bottom line, when you rig elections, you are rigging, you are stealing the people's everything. So Mnangagwa, I don't know what to say, because when he was rigging elections, he was doing it for a purpose, which is just for himself. So what policy then can you talk of from a person who does that, who kills people, daylight? He goes to shoot people. There is nothing that you can credit Emmerson Mnangagwa, my dear. I'm not trying to tell you what you should think of, but look, there is no policy consistency there, because they never had a policy in the first place. That land policy which they had, it was actually what brought about the formation of the movement for democratic change in 1999 was the issue of land. But then it was hijacked by the same people. They hijacked it and used it wrongly. You see? So everybody, I mean, we came to Zimbabwe. We were not created in Zimbabwe. We were created wherever. And then we came to Zimbabwe. But we came at different times. It could have been me, my tribe that came first, and then another tribe, or another totem, and then maybe the Ndebeles, then the whites. I'm saying we all came to Zimbabwe, and we now belong to Zimbabwe. Everybody who calls Zimbabwe home deserves the same right, whether black, white, Ndebele, Shona. We must all be equal because we all came, though we came at different times. If my people came first, that does not entitle us to be better citizens or to get more than everyone else. No, we are equal. So we need a policy that says we are equal, that treats everyone the same, whether it's land or anything. We must be the same. We are all Zimbabweans.
Mr. Matape,
yes.
Mr. Matape, I'll refer you to the Constitution of Zimbabwe, the 2013 Constitution.
Is it being followed?
No, that is the question I was going to ask. But
then another question.
No,
another question.
You said that we need a policy.
No,
and I'm saying we go beyond policy. There is a constitutional right that is entrenched in our constitution that says everyone is equal before the law. So my question to you would be, do you think the ZANU-PF administration has done enough to comply to the 2013 constitution?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, that they are not even following that constitution. They have not aligned the laws. Even those that have been aligned, they are not followed. Laws are used, they select, laws are applied selectively. So as long as you are using laws selectively. So we start with the constitution itself. What the people said in 2013 is not everything that was written there. That constitution was negotiated by political parties. That is very wrong, totally 100% wrong, because the people said something, and then you go and sit down there and you make your own thing. That is wrong. So that constitution itself is wrong because
I had hijacked the two of you, and and we seem to have come to the end of the hour. And I should really thank you for availing yourselves this conversation. And for you, the viewers, I hope you have enjoyed it. It was unscripted and an ambush. And we are here to interrogate this idea that a nation without the rule of law is no different from the animal kingdom. It means there can't be property where no rule of law.
Sure.
There can't be reform where there is no rule of law. There can't be anything of value where there is no rule of law. I've yet to see a lion wearing a jacket. I've yet to see a baboon wearing shoes. But they are animals like us. And we don't have to wear shoes, jackets, but we are wearing shoes and jackets because we have the rule of law. And any nation that tolerates rule by men is signing a contract with poverty. Any society that assumes title to a gift of nature without giving the citizens the right to land so that they can trade it, use it to create property. And when they transfer property, imagine somebody comes to your car, borrows it at night, you wake up in the morning and you find your car gone. You wonder, where is my car? Only to find someone driving it back to your car park, and it tells you, I had borrowed it because I knew you were asleep, and I've been borrowing your car every day. It's a pity that you woke up early today, because I never prejudiced you or wanted to do so. What would you say? Would it imply rape? You go to the police station and they call it borrowing without your knowledge, but not theft. But I brought it back. I restore your rights to where they were settings, and then tell you something else. So if we are to be progressive, futuristic, and what do we need to do to secure the future that we want, Lennon, that we want, Mr. Matape? So we are going to come back with a series of this binary. What is the opposite of poverty? It can't be wealth, because animals are not poor. Human beings are. Why would human beings be poor and not animals? Where there's rule of law, there is exclusion. And when you see a socialist, a communist like Lennon, enlarge the debate beyond Zimbabwe, because it's a deeper problem, because it leads to inefficiency, it leads to bias, it leads to a few people getting what they don't deserve. So I hope you are listening, so I'll give 3 minutes for closing arguments or closing statements to Mr. Matape first.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I have enjoyed this show, and I hope next time it is going to be well organized again, and so that we can keep on talking, and more people will come in, so that we can educate one another. We don't know. I don't know. I also want to learn from a lot of other people. And thank you very much, Lennon. If not Lenin, and Mr. Mawere, for the time that you have given us. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, now it's your turn.
No, I would want to thank you, Mr. Mawere, for this candid conversation. And I might not agree with everything that Mr. Matape says, but at least we are having a conversation in a respectful way, different opinions. I personally believe that every Zimbabwean deserves a chance. We need to create a community where everybody is given an opportunity to try out their destiny. That is why I subscribe to principles of socialism, and that is why at an ideological level, I believe Robert Mugabe was consistently correct. Everyone should be given a chance to try out their destiny. There are a few things that he missed. There are a few things that he didn't get right. And I believe it's our responsibility as young people today. My father was 17 when he left the mission in Mount St. Mary's Wedza to go and fight for his destiny. And I think young people also today need to find a way in which they can fight for their destiny. And I think one of the ways is to contribute in this conversation. We should have a conversation as citizens. We should be talking about these matters in our houses, at work, digital spaces such as this. We must have this conversation because the Constitution of Zimbabwe gives us the right to freedom of speech, freedom of thought, and of opinion. So I think it's very important for our citizens to start now to exercise their constitutional right to freedom of thought. Let's have a conversation. Let's sustain the conversation about the Zimbabwe that we want. I don't believe every Zimbabwean is meant to be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, or what. Some are meant to be somewhere there at a farm in Wedza. But at least they would have been given an opportunity to do what they want to do with their life. So, Mr. Mawere, thank you very much for this conversation. I hope in the future, Mr. Matape will be available to continue having this conversation, and let's hear what the other person thinks. Let's hear what there are a lot of bitter Zimbabweans. I have been checking some of the comments. There are a lot of people who are bitter because of things that have happened in the past. Some have lost their relatives, some have lost jobs, some have lost properties, and there's a lot of bitterness. So I think it's high time people objectively engage this conversation so that we can at least imagine and strategize the Zimbabwe that we want. Thank you very much.
I think there is a question that begs for answers. You guys stop wasting our time talking about this. We got better things to discuss to improve our country. Give us a break, please. That's Tafirenyika Garikai. I guess what can we do when we are locked down and you're not down? Where do you go? Apart from talking. Why would the Creator give us voices if the voices were never meant to be used? Imagine those who don't have a gift to speak. Then they are told, why are you not speaking? And he says, I can't speak. Yet those who speak, when they speak, others will say, stop speaking. If I were to go into that country where somebody tells me not to waste their time, not mine, because I'm the one who is speaking and they are not speaking, but they are disturbed by my speaking, when they can decide to switch off and carry on with what they need to do. What kind of intolerance is that? That would stop a train to talk to a dog. Why are you barking? As if I'm stopping you to go where you want to go. Life is so broad that what I do does not stop what you need to do. If you believe speaking is offensive, then what kind of civilization do you want? Do you want a civilization where we are mum? Even if I speak in a language that you don't understand, please give me the right to use my own way of speaking.
Yes.
In doing so, I may provoke somebody. I may ignite somebody. I may inspire somebody to think differently about the same problem, to see a glass half full, and also to see it as half empty. And yet it's the same glass, with the same liquid, with the same volume. So when we talk about rule of law and property, you begin to see where our poverty comes from. It doesn't come from the person of Mugabe or Mnangagwa. it comes from this animalistic nature of man, predatory nature of man, the smartness of man. You elect him today, and he comes out thinking he's smart. Can you imagine? Somebody says, I got 2 million votes. I own million people. What kind of stupidity is that? Who would say I'm a popular dog? Not that I am a dog. We are all humans. We stand on the same ground. We walk on the same ground. And where we are going is uncertain. Even the next step I take could be my last step. Yet I keep on walking until I can walk no more. But life doesn't give anyone the right to substitute another and to tell somebody what they should say with their own mind. Because gifts are given to us. And what I say, you can't predict until I've said it.
Oh, yes.
But I need to say in grace, I need to say, so that you can also have a right to say what you need to say. Zimbabwe is bigger than our 2 ears. It won't fit into our minds. But there are people who believe that government will solve their problem. That government gave me land and I shall be rich. And we have seen in Zimbabwe that has not happened. And it will not happen. You find the second round of land reform where the people who die having invested millions only to find at the gate there's a government official who said we made a mistake. This land must be reallocated to somebody else. What you got for nothing, you must exit with nothing. What are you going to say at the gate when people exchange, confuse themselves, and give you what you didn't anticipate? So let's be careful. Any system administered by men of flesh, that's us. So we are not here to be perfectionists. We just say, let's have 3 talking heads. Not that we know everything. What I say is comes from my own head, not from Zimbabwe. I'm not going to come here to be elastic, to encompass people I don't know. You live in Zimbabwe, and you accept to live under the conditions you live. You expect someone in government to think for you. You are in a deep shit. And Trump calls it shit hole. And pumping shit in a hole. Let's wake up. And until we meet again, it's your future. It's not the government's future. You have to be wise about it. You have to agitate for it. It won't be given for you. Don't expect miracles from people you elect. They are men and women of flesh. They will make mistakes, and those mistakes will benefit somebody. Better be you, not somebody you don't know. So thank you guys, and let's keep on the conversations. Never be intimidated to bark. If you bark and someone stops you, bark louder. Talk louder until those who are experts in stopping others speaking their mind can surrender, so that the future is what it should be, full of animation, full of voices, confusing ones, but still voices. In those voices, you may find something for you. And leaders are not infallible. That's Jake. Yes, Mr. Matiza. Anyone who pretends to be infallible is not human. Never trust any man with power, including me. Never elect me to a position that you can't elect yourself. Because when you do so, my friends will remind me that they own me. My circle will remind me that I am the universe. So don't trust anyone with power that they didn't earn themselves, but power they borrow from you, and you surrender it and forget, close your eyes, become inactive. Be an active citizen. And it doesn't, but it actually is very expensive to be. It has obligations. So let's teach civics so that we know the rights and obligations of a citizen. And let's do things. People see what we do, what we talk about, from the results of the people who listen. And if you are out there, please just use your ears. If you want to talk, please tell us so that we can bring you to also give your bullshit if you think we are bullshitters, so that together we can have a shit. Is it what you call it, Lennon? Shit from a bull is called bullshit. It must be a bull fest. Mr. Matape,
Yes, sir.
let's be leaders of God, but let's be bulls first. Courage to speak your mind. So
Thank you very
please
much.
encourage the bulls.
Hey, thank you very much, Mr.